Hi, Amy Scruggs, and this is my case study for EDL 850. Category 1, Problem Identification and Analysis, starting with what I know about Ms. Walker. Ms. Walker is a second-year teacher teaching specialized science. Her courses are rigorous subjects, and she has high expectations. There have been multiple complaints from parents in regards to Ms. Walker's high expectations and poor instruction. Her principal, Dr. Forbes, has discussed techniques with Ms. Walker on reducing student stress and building relationships with them. However, Ms. Walker has been unsuccessful in implementing Dr. Forbes' suggestions. What I know in regards to the situation. Ms. Walker received an anonymous email with a link to a website. The website contained crude comments and vulgar criticisms of Ms. Walker and her class. Ms. Walker perceived the last comment on the website as a threat. Because of this, she was upset and contacted Dr. Forbes. During the course of that conversation, Ms. Walker names Randy Franks based on speculation, stating he has made snide comments and is savvy with technology. What I know in regards to Dr. Forbes is that he has asked Ms. Walker to forward the email so he can see it and the webpage and prints hard copies. Dr. Forbes believes it could be a prank, but states that he'll look into it. He also asked Ms. Walker if any students were unhappy with her or if she could recall any incidents from the week before. Dr. Forbes has been the principal for 9 years and is highly respected. What I need to know about the situation is, who wants Ms. Walker to disappear truly a threat? What does disappear mean? What are the state laws in regards to threats? What are board policies regarding threats? Who is behind the email and webpage? What are the results of Dr. Forbes' investigation? And what were the other comments made? I think possibly knowing some of the other comments may help put who wants Ms. Walker to disappear into context. What I need to know about Ms. Walker is, why have attempts to help Ms. Walker failed? What has she done in attempt to build relationships? Why is her class so stressful for students? And do the students and parents know what to expect from her class? Identify the problem. The first problem is Ms. Walker has received what she feels is a threat and feels unsafe. The second problem is Ms. Walker needs support in building relationships with students. And the third problem, Ms. Walker needs support in further improving and developing her instruction. Category 2, Proposed Plan of Action, starting with my proposed plan of action for the threat. First thing I would do is find out if the state has specific laws about online threats. I know all states have laws against making criminal threats and bullying, but only some states have threats that specifically address online. I did find that for an online threat to be considered illegal, authorities usually consider the following. Is it directed at a specific person? Is there a specific threat of harm? Is it from an easily identifiable source? And is it credible? In Alonis versus the United States, the Supreme Court overturned Alonis's conviction because there wasn't enough evidence to prove intent. Alonis had made several death threats against his wife on Facebook and threats towards his coworkers and the general public. However, he stated that he had no intent to truly harm anybody, that they were just rap lyrics, and that he had a First Amendment right for freedom of speech. And the Supreme Court agreed with him. I think that's important to note. So, who wants Ms. Walker to disappear will unlikely be considered a criminal threat since it is vague and isn't from an easily identifiable source. However, I would still report the situation and my action plan to the district office. And I would contact law enforcement if found to be necessary after discussion with district officials. Continuing with my proposed action for the threat, I would speak to Randy Franks and possibly his friends. Maybe he didn't do it, but knows who did. Dr. Forbes did state that he would have this conversation the next morning. Contact IT. Can they determine who or where the email or website originated? As Dr. Forbes stated in the case, he'd ask the district technologist if necessary. I think it would be necessary to contact the district technologist regardless. I think you'd want to have the documentation if Randy Franks did admit to doing it, or even if he didn't, you'd want the documentation of looking for it and possibly finding out who did it. So that goes on to, if a student is identified and used school equipment, then determine appropriate disciplinary action based on the school's acceptable use policy and or harassment policies. If the student is identified but didn't use school equipment, I think disciplinary action based on the school's harassment policies may be appropriate. Proposed action for the threat continued would be, I would offer Ms. Walker any emotional support she may need, let her know what steps are being taken to ensure her safety, but also remind her to be careful to avoid defamation and breaking FERPA confidentiality during this time. I know she named Randy Franks in a private phone conversation with Dr. Forbes, but I would make sure to remind her not to name specific students or actions outside of that conversation. So I would also, in the course of all of this, have an open discussion with students about the acceptable use and harassment policies. I would discuss with Ms. Walker's students ways to appropriately express their frustrations or concerns. And then finally, send an email or note home to the parents of the students in Ms. Walker's class to inform them of the situation, maybe not necessarily specifics, but that there has been a situation, the steps being taken to resolve the issue or issues, and remind them of school policies, and to also encourage direct communication with the teacher or Dr. Forbes to express further questions or concerns. Proposed action for building relationships. It has been stated that Dr. Forbes has discussed strategies with Ms. Walker to increase positive interactions with students, but she has failed implementing them. I would plan on discussing with Ms. Walker why the suggested strategies haven't worked and what she proposes for future action. Having an open and honest conversation with her could help uncover underlying issues that can be resolved. I would also assign a mentor teacher who does exceptionally well with student-teacher relationships. I would have Ms. Walker spend time in this teacher's classroom observing. I would ask for notes, dates of meetings, observations, and what she has tried or wants to try to implement as a result of the observations and meetings. I think having her document her time with another teacher will help her in her growth of building relationships and in self-reflection. Continuing with building relationships, I would also help Ms. Walker develop and implement a positive reinforcement plan for her students. Points could possibly be given for maybe everyone is present, or there's no tardies for the day, or everyone turned in their homework, etc. And then rewards could be things like no homework, fun class activity, notes allowed on a quiz or test are all examples of appropriate rewards. I think developing this plan will help both Ms. Walker and her students in relationship building. And finally, I would help Ms. Walker plan and implement cooperative learning and team building activities. I would suggest looking at Kagan for strategies and activities. Proposed action for improving instruction. It has been stated that Dr. Forbes has discussed strategies with Ms. Walker to reduce student stress. Her expectations are stringent, and her instruction has been described as poor. She is intent on having a structured classroom focused on academics. She is highly qualified for the position, but needs help improving her pedagogy. I would discuss with Ms. Walker the course expectations. Are they appropriate? Can some assignments or coursework be redeveloped or redesigned? What can she do to help alleviate her own and her students' stress? I would assign another mentor teacher that teaches a similar high level or specialty class, and I would have Ms. Walker observe this teacher, have them discuss instructional practices, and have Ms. Walker develop a plan for implementing some new practices for her classroom. Again, I would ask Ms. Walker to record notes, meeting dates, and what was implemented and the outcome. Continuing with improving instruction, if the budget allows, I would find an appropriate professional development conference or seminar for Ms. Walker to attend that focuses on effective instruction. If that's not possible, I would offer a book study for Ms. Walker and any other staff that is interested. I would develop PLCs for additional support and development. And I would also ensure Ms. Walker has clearly communicated with students and parents her expectations in the course outcomes. Moving on to category 3, promoting the success of all students. What have I done that shows what is best for students? I feel like the students need a teacher who is knowledgeable in their subject matter. And to address that, Ms. Walker has a master's and completed additional postgraduate work. She is highly qualified based on Dr. Forbes' standards. And Dr. Forbes is well respected and works diligently to find the most qualified teachers. He believes Ms. Walker is right for this position. I also feel like that the students need a teacher who is responsive to their concerns and frustrations. There have been numerous calls from concerned parents. Having Ms. Walker clearly communicate with parents and students will help alleviate some of their concerns and frustrations. The students need a teacher who can provide effective instruction. Zoology, botany, and genetics are specialized science courses that may be difficult subjects. Parents and students have continued to complain about the workload and poor instruction. Having Ms. Walker observe other teachers with proven effective instructional practices, attending professional development, or a book study on effective instruction will help Ms. Walker meet her students' needs. And the students need a positive student-teacher relationship to further ensure their success. Ms. Walker is intent on a structured classroom focused on academics. However, having structure doesn't mean forgoing relationship building. I think introducing Kagan strategies and activities and a positive reinforcement management system will help Ms. Walker have structure and build a rapport with her students. Category 4, debrief. What was I thinking, feeling, and valuing? I really do feel bad that Ms. Walker obviously isn't well liked by her students. Someone has made that clear with the email and webpage, and that may be difficult for Ms. Walker to overcome. I do wonder if Ms. Walker feels pressure to have a high-achieving class and internalizes the success and failures of her students. I can empathize with that. I always feel that the success and failures of my students are a direct reflection of not only my instruction, but me as a person as well. And I value that Ms. Walker is still a new teacher and can potentially become a great teacher. She just needs further direction, support, and professional development. And I often think the failures of a new teacher partly falls on administration. If it is seen that a new teacher is struggling, they should be given the support and coaching needed to improve. Continuing with the debrief, unresolved or open to further investigation. I feel like all along we've made the assumption that Ms. Walker wants to be a teacher and wants to improve to become more successful. However, maybe she doesn't, and this may need to be an upfront conversation with her. Is teaching what she really wants to do? I also think if the threat was truly genuine, more actions would need to be taken than what I've outlined. But given the vagueness of it, I think it's just someone expressing their frustration. And then, have other comments been made about Ms. Walker? If there have been other comments or other incidents, I think we would need to consider bullying education to be implemented. I don't consider the one incident in this case bullying, but if it's been continuous, then there is another problem that needs to be addressed. Category 5, reflection on Standard 5. How have I demonstrated a sense of integrity and ethical behavior? I feel like investigating the threat to see if it is credible and if it is a criminal action shows ethical behavior. It is an administrator's duty to make sure policies and laws are being followed. Reminding Ms. Walker that we can't jump to conclusions and that talking about specific students to anyone not only violates FERPA, but could possibly lead to defamation. And then reminding students, parents, and possibly even the staff of acceptable use and harassment policies shows further ethical behavior by ensuring everyone is aware of them and that they are being followed. How have I treated people fairly, equitably, and with dignity and respect? Investigating the threat and offering emotional support for Ms. Walker shows that I have treated her with respect and dignity. Recognizing that students are frustrated and may be acting out and addressing that is showing the students fairness and respect. Not jumping to conclusions on who authored the website, but saying we'll have a discussion with who Ms. Walker suspects shows treating the suspected student fairly and equitably. And allowing Ms. Walker more opportunities for professional development and effective instruction in relationship building shows that she is being treated fairly and equitably. She is being given opportunities to improve instead of disciplined for having students and parents complain. How have I demonstrated a personal and professional code of ethics? I like to think that I'm a fair and open-minded person, and I feel like this is shown through the steps taken towards investigating the threat. I'm not going to assume it was a joke, but I can't assume it's a call to action against Ms. Walker either. Also, having honest, open, and two-way communication with the students, teachers, and parents involved is important to show integrity and respect towards all the involved parties. And being flexible is important too. Showing a willingness to work with teachers and allow them to improve and develop as needed is important. And to do that, you have to be flexible. They may not get or be where you need them to be at the time you want, but hopefully they'll get there. And that's it. Thank you.